Hello friends, good afternoon and welcome to EduSat live lectures. Dear friends, today in immunology we will be talking about hypersensitivity. To discuss this topic we have with us our subject expert Dr. Hardeep Kaur. Dr. Kaur is Assistant Professor in Department of Zoology, Ramjas College, University of Delhi. Without further ado, I would like to welcome ma'am to our studios and request her to start the lecture. Welcome ma'am.
Thank you, Amrit. Dear friends, welcome back to the immunology series lectures. In today's lecture, we are dealing with hypersensitivity. Now, till now, after so many lectures which we have gone through in immunology, you must be clear what our immune system actually is. As we know, it is like any other system of our body, but will only be apparent when it goes hayway. Now, before also we had discussed that immune system has a very responsible position in our body. It cannot be overexpressed, it cannot go underexpressed, it has to have an optimum balance. Now, when we are talking about overexpression of an immune system, we are actually talking about a hypersensitivity in our body. So, the topic of today's discussion is hypersensitivity. Now, hypersensitivity is when a pathogen, as we have understood a pathogen, an antigen could be any pathogen, it could be a bacteria, it could be a virus, it could be a fungi, maybe a parasite, a worm, anything. Sometimes even a very harmless thing like a pollen grain, all these can become antigenic if your immune system is giving a response against it and is mounting an immune response against it. Now, as I just told you, our immune system has a responsible position wherein it has to mount a stipulated amount of a response. It cannot go overboard. Now, if it goes overboard, that is what we call it as hypersensitivity. So, in order to define hypersensitivity, what is hypersensitivity? It is a state of altered reactivity in which the body reacts with an exaggerated immune response to a foreign agent or an antigen. Now, or we can say it is an overreactivity by the immune system. It is not required, but the immune system is reacting overtly. Overreaction by the immune system is what we call it as hypersensitivity. Now, the reaction can be immediate reaction, acting immediately within minutes or maybe within hours, maybe within a day. That is called an immediate hypersensitivity reaction. Or the reaction may be delayed. It may take maybe 3 days to come up with the symptoms of the hypersensitivity, but there would be definite the symptoms of hypersensitivity. So, based on that also we describe hypersensitivity as either immediate hypersensitivity, wherein the symptoms are appearing immediately, or delayed type, where the symptoms are taking some time to come up. Now, Gell and Coombs gave a classification. According to this classification, the hypersensitivity is of 4 types. Type 1, which is IgE mediated or immediate hypersensitivity, also called atopic hypersensitivity, also called anaphylactic hypersensitivity. Now, must understand that this is what IgE we had done in our lecture about antibodies. We had described what IgE antibody is. It is a specialized antibody. Normally, you do not have high percentage of IgE running in our blood, but in certain conditions, specifically when our body is producing and is mounting an immune response against an allergen, we will come to its definition later, then the amount of IgE or the percentage of IgE or the levels of IgE increases tremendously in our blood. That is what is called type 1 IgE mediated hypersensitivity, also called atopic anaphylactic immediate hypersensitivity. Now, coming back to the classification, we have type 2, which is antibody dependent. Again, it is again antibody dependent, but in this case the antibody is not IgE, it could be IgG, maybe sometimes IgM also, but predominantly IgG. IgE has no role to play in this particular type of antibody. dependent hypersensitivity. Now, the third type is the type 3 or the immune complex mounted. Now, you will understand when I am talking about this classification, whether I am talking about the type 1 hypersensitivity, type 2 hypersensitivity, type 3 hypersensitivity, somewhere within this the word antibody or antibody antigen complex is coming. So, technically these three type of the hypersensitive reactions are belonging to the humoral category. Here antibody is mediating some effect or hypersensitivity has some relationship to the antibody. So, we clearly say that type 1, type 2 and the type 3 hypersensitive reactions are predominantly belonging to the humoral type. Now, while the type 4 as you can see is a cell mediated or delayed type of hypersensitivity. Now, as you can see in the slide, cell mediated means here the cellular immunity is taking place. Now, we have a specialized type of T helper cells in this case which we call it as delayed type T cells, which are responsible for mounting an immune response. So, in another way we can classify all these hypersensitive reactions as those reactions which are initiated by antibody or antibody antigen complexes and are immediate. So, we call them as immediate hypersensitivities. Immediate means the symptoms come up immediately, the manifestation of the immune response comes up quickly within, let us say, within 24 hours sometimes or within even minutes. Now, those initiated by the cell mediated response are called delayed type. So, the type 4 belongs to this category which is a delayed type hypersensitivities. So, with this we come to the next, the very first one, that is type 1 or the IgE mediated hypersensitivity or immediate hypersensitivity. Now, we must understand that this particular hypersensitivity is induced by certain types of antigens which we commonly call them as allergens. Now, generally a word allergy is also used for such kind of hypersensitivity. Now, so the allergens cause something in our body, that means allergens, we come in contact with an allergen maybe through respiration, that is inhalation, or maybe to taking in food or by any means we come across these allergens. The antibody which is produced by our body or by our immune response is a specialized one, that is IgE antibody in this case. Now, it is an allergic reaction which is actually provoked by re-exposure to that allergen or antigen. Most of the time the allergen first time goes undetected, or maybe if the allergen stays for a longer time, it is a second exposure that in the first exposure the allergen is only initiating the formation of IgE. Once IgE is formed, IgE will have its reaction inside. The second exposure to this allergen will cause a massive hypersensitivity reaction. Now, this involves immediate release of histamine, tryptase, arachidonate and derivatives by basophils and mast cells. Now, in our previous lecture, we have understood that basophils and mast cells are very important part of our immune system. Most of the basophils are blood-borne while mast cells are present in the tissues. Now, what do they have? They have certain granules which contain certain modulator substances or mediator substances which we call it as histamines. Now, what happens whenever there is a triggering by whatever means, I am not going into the mechanism right now. Once triggered, these mast cells as well as these basophils undergo degranulation. What does degranulation means? The granules come and bind to the cell membrane and give off its contents outside the cell. Now, what do they release? They release pharmacological substances like histamine, leukotrienes, etc. Now, generally prostaglandins, etc. are the secondary mediators. We will not come to that detail right now. So, once this histamine, etc. are released by these cells, mast cells or basophils, they mediate certain reaction. What these reactions generally involve the vascular system of our body. So, we will understand the mechanism, the entire mechanism of type 1 hypersensitivity a little later. So, now exposure to an allergen can be, as I just told you, it can be by ingestion, by inhalation, maybe by injection or by direct contact. Now, the hypersensitivity reaction which is produced can be systemic. Systemic means it can have an effect in the entire body, or it may be localized to a specific target tissue or organ. Like for example, if we have an inflammation at a particular point, that becomes a localized hypersensitivity. However, if anaphylactic reaction occurs, anaphylaxis means when the entire body is getting affected, that is called a systemic reaction. So, when the effect is seen in the entire body or the reaction is produced in the entire body, it is called a systemic reaction. If it is localized to a particular organ, we say it is a localized hypersensitivity reaction, for example, an inflammation of an organ. Now, let us come to the definition of an allergen first. Let us go one by one. What is an allergen? Allergen is a type of an antigen that produces an abnormally vigorous immune response in which the immune system fights off a perceived threat that would otherwise be harmless to the body. Such reactions are called allergies also. Now, an allergen is an antigen which is capable of stimulating a type 1 hypersensitivity reaction in atopic individuals through immunoglobulin E responses. Now, here in this definition, you will come across certain words like atopic individuals and many other things like allergies. So, allergies is a very common word which we very often hear, that we got an allergy with this, we got an allergy. What is an allergy? The type 1 hypersensitivity which has a symptom immediately is an allergic reaction, right, and generally caused by an allergen. Now, are allergens always going to act in the same way in every individual? No, it is not true. Allergens can also vary. For example, a particular substance, maybe I might be allergic to a particular food item, but another individual may not be allergic to that food item. So, technically a compound may be an allergen for a particular individual and may not have any, there is no immune response against that particular allergen. We will not call it allergen in that case because there is no immune response in another individual. So, if it is mounting an immune response in me, so this substance becomes an allergen. It may be harmless for another individual. Now, some of the very common allergens, here is a list of some of the common allergens. These include animal proteins and animal dander. Dander is actually some of the skin cells which are shed by the animals, you know. It could be a dandruff also, animal dandruff. It could be anything which is shed from the skin. So, dust, you will see people who are having dust allergies, a little dusty atmosphere, they are just using a broom and then dust goes and into they inhale certain dust and they start sneezing, that is a dust allergy. Drugs such as antibiotics or medicines, most of the times the medicines which you put on your skin, but at many a times I have seen that there are people who have allergies to certain antibiotics. For example, in certain cases like levofloxacin, very commonly for against norfloxacin. So, such drug allergies are also there. Food allergies, many times you have come across people who say that I am allergic to egg, to peanuts, to nuts, milk allergy, lactose intolerance, soya, fish, animal meat, wheat, gluten allergy. So, all these kinds of allergies to the food items may be there in one individual. So, it may not be allergic to another individual. Other people are consuming milk, but a particular individual may be intolerant, intolerant to the lactose, to the carbohydrate present in the milk. So, technically he is having a lactose intolerance, that is another kind of an allergy. Now, fungal spores, allergy to fungal spores, to insects and mite feces, to insect bites and stings. For example, the bee sting is a very popular one. wherein the moment you have a bee sting, on your hand swells up, it becomes painful, and you might have seen in your everyday life that bee stinging can have variable amount of immune response. Sometimes a person may get such a swelling that his entire arm is getting swollen and he is not able to lift his arm. The other person with a bee sting, with the same bee sting, may not be having too much of manifestation. So, how much is the manifestation is again variable between individual to individual. Now, sometimes from natural rubber, latex, through pollen, all these allergens are common allergens which cause type 1 hypersensitivity reactions in various individuals. Now, some of the most common food allergies are to the tree nuts, to the soy, to fish, peanuts, shellfish, certain crustaceans. You must have heard people saying that I am allergic to prawns, to eggs, wheat, dairy products. All these foods are causing allergies in certain individuals, not in all. Now, we also came across a term called atopic individuals. What is atopic? This term atopy was coined by Coco and Koch in 1923. Now, atopic means that an individual is genetically it's a genetically mediated predisposition. That means there is something in the genes of an individual which is making him more prone to an allergic reaction, more prone to a hypersensitivity reaction against a particular allergen. So, we say it's a genetically mediated predisposition to an excessive IgE reaction, which is such individuals are called atopic individuals. Now, how do we understand? How do we understand a particular individual is having a particular allergy? How to test for it? So, a very popular test for allergy is Proschnitzky-Kushner test. It is a test for the presence of immediate hypersensitivity in humans. Now, how does it is done? The test serum from an atopic individual is injected intradermally into a normal subject. Now, the normal subject is challenged 24 to 48 hours later with the antigen which is suspected of causing the immediate hypersensitivity reaction in the atopic subject. See, you must understand that we cannot perform this test in an atopic individual. If we subject that atopic individual to, let's say, 5 different allergens, out of which one is the causative agent for this allergy, he can mount enormous response and it could become very dangerous. So, this particular test was devised by Proschnitz and Kushner. As you can see, this test was given by Otto Proschnitz and Heinz Kushner in 1921. It is also called a PK test. Now, Kushner was allergic to fish since his childhood, while Proschnitz suffered from grass pollen hay fever. So, Kushner's serum was injected into Proschnitz's skin. So, this was the first test. Now, a manifestation or the apparent symptom, like for example, if a healthy individual has been given an serum from an atopic individual, after that atopic individual has already suffered from some particular allergy. Now, that serum is given into a healthy individual and healthy individual is subjected to, let's say, 5 different allergens just to find out what allergen is causing this reaction in the atopic individual. Now, how is it manifested? You get a wheal and flare reaction. Now, wheal is a accumulation of fluid at the site where the antigen has been injected. Now, flare is the redness. So, technically edema as well as redness of over that area where an antigen has or an allergen has been injected will give us a positive PK test. Now, as you can see in this slide, here an arm of a patient has been subjected to various allergens. It could be a pollen, it could be various different types of pollen, plain pollen, birch pollen, grass pollen, daisy pollen, sheep wool, etc. So many allergens have been injected intradermally into these individuals, and wherever there is a wheal and a flare reaction, that gives us a positive reaction which shows that this particular individual is atopic person who is having allergy to these specific allergens wherever this reaction has taken place. So, this is a very good test to show us the symptoms of hypersensitivity or to confirm what are the allergens in a particular individual. Now, coming to the mechanism of the type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. Now, as you can see in this slide, the hypersensitivity, that is the type 1 hypersensitivity or the immediate hypersensitivity, in this case what happens here, if you see there is an allergen, this allergen is being shown to a T helper cell. Now, generally this is the type of Th2 cell. Now, there are two phases involved. The first phase is called the sensitization phase. Once the T helper cell has been shown, you can see the allergen has been processed and presented to the T helper cell in the first part of the slide. Once the T helper cell has been triggered, it will produce an IL-4 interleukin 4 molecule, it is a cytokine. Once IL-4 is produced, IL-4 will act on the B cell, B lymphocyte. What will it do? IL-4 causes B cell to undergo class switching. Class switching means previously if B cell is producing IgG or IgM, now it will start producing IgE antibody. We know IgE immunoglobulin is specific to the type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. So, with class switching, the B lymphocyte will produce copious amount of IgE antibody. Now, before producing IgE antibody, the B lymphocyte either has to become a memory B cell or it becomes a plasma B cell. Now, if it becomes a memory B cell, as you can see on the left hand side corner, if it becomes a memory B cell, the IgE immunoglobulin will remain attached to the membrane of this memory cell. However, if it becomes a plasma cell, it will start producing humongous amount of IgE antibody. These antibodies will go and bind to the Fc epsilon receptor, which is present on the mast cells and basophils. As you can see in the slide, the allergen specific Ig is being produced, which is pink in color. This Ig is going and binding to the Fc epsilon receptor on the sensitized mast cells. Now, mast cells have granules and the granules contain histamine. So, very importantly, now the allergen has to come back again and cross-link these IgE which is present on the membrane of this mast cell. The cross-linking of antibody present on the mast cell membrane will cause a process which is said to be degranulation. Degranulation of mast cells will lead to release of the vasoactive amines. Vasoactive amines, as I just told you, primarily is histamine. Histamine once released will have an effect on the smooth muscle cells, on the small blood vessels, on mucous glands, blood platelets, sensory nerve endings, eosinophils, ultimately causing vasodilation in that region and along with the smooth muscle contraction in that region. These are the two very important aspects or rather effects of histamine. Histamine causes smooth muscle contraction in the region where it is released and it also leads to vasodilation. Sometimes it can have so much effect and the vasodilation can lead to so much of decrease in the blood pressure that you immediately have to give epinephrine to shoot up the pressure. This generally takes place in anaphylactic reactions wherein the effect is systemic rather than localized. So, in a localized, maybe an inflammation is taking place, such slight edema, redness of that particular organ. However, if this effect of vasodilation and smooth muscle contraction is in throughout the body, we call it as a systemic effect or anaphylactic response also if it is of a very high level or if it is tremendous response. Now, as you can see, the response is immediate within seconds to minutes in type 1 hypersensitivity. The symptoms can vary from mild irritation to sudden death from anaphylactic shock. Anaphylaxis is a serious allergic reaction that is rapid in onset and may eventually lead to death, can cause death if we do not have we are not vigilant and we do not do some antidote for it. Typically, it causes more than one of the following. It could be an itchy rash, a throat or tongue swelling, shortness of breath, vomiting, lightheadedness, and maybe very low blood pressure. These symptoms typically come on over within minutes or may take some hours. Now, immediately in anaphylactic reactions, we have to provide immediate relief to the individual, otherwise it becomes very dangerous and can cause death also. Now, medical control of type 1 hypersensitivity. Now, the easiest control is, if we know the allergen, let us not come in contact with the allergen, that is the easiest control. So, avoid contact with the known allergen. Use of humanized monoclonal anti-IgE. Now, what does this mean? If we raise certain anti-IgE, that is monoclonal anti-IgE, this anti-IgE will go and bind to the IgE inside our body and will not let IgE to manifest its further role, to complete its role. Now, as you understand that IgE is being released by the basophils. Now, once it is released, it will go and bind to Ig epsilon receptor or Fc epsilon receptor on the mast cells or the blood basophils. Now, important thing is that we have to give this humanized monoclonal anti-IgE before the IgE binds to the mast cells. Once it is bound to mast cell, it will lead to degranulation and release of the histamine. So, during this window period, when IgE is released and it has not bound to its receptor, we can provide humanized monoclonal anti-IgE antibodies, which will go and bind to IgE antibodies and will not let it go on in further process, will not let IgE to bind to the mast cell. Another way is by antihistamines. Now, once the IgE has bound to the mast cell or basophils, the mediator molecule has the inflammatory which will cause inflammation is released. Now, another thing is either you stop the mediator to act further or you do not let the cell produce the mediator. So, we use antihistamine which act by binding to the histamine receptor on the target cell. Now, histamine has an effect on the target cell. Now, if we do not let histamine, if we have something already sitting on the target cell at the receptor place where histamine is supposed to bind, so histamine will not bind. So, we block the binding of histamine. There are many compounds who work against the histamine like Benadryl, Dramamine, glucocorticoids. Again, we have certain there is a specialized aspirin and NSAIDs. NSAIDs are those drugs which are generally given to individuals. Now, it has been found that there is something called AIA, which is aspirin intolerant asthma, which is a distinct type of asthma that affect only 3 to 11% of adults. Generally, aspirin and NSAIDs are very safe drugs, but in certain cases they actually induce asthma in certain population. Only 3 to 11% of individuals are very prone to aspirin induced asthma. So, we cannot use aspirins and NSAIDs in those cases. Epinephrine is usually used to counteract mediator effects such as low BP. Now, because of hypersensitivity, if there is a high amount of low BP in the particular individual, we will have to immediately give an epinephrine shot. Again, there is another situation where we can hyposensitize an individual by repeated injection of allergens to such individuals, which will eventually cause a shift in the antibody production. Now, immunoglobulin IgG would be produced instead of IgE antibody. So, these are various examples of type 1 hypersensitivity reactions. These include allergic asthma, allergic conjunctivitis, allergic rhinitis, which is also called hay fever, anaphylaxis, angioedema, urticaria or hives. These are very common examples of type 1 hypersensitivity reactions. With that I would like to finish this first half of our hypersensitivity reactions. The other 3 types we will discuss in our next lecture. Thank you very much. Thank you. Welcome back viewers in the second half of the hypersensitivity reaction involving lecture. So, we had discussed, if you remember, we had discussed the type 1 hypersensitivity in our previous lecture. In this particular lecture, we will be dealing with the other 3 types. Viewers, if you remember, the type 1 hypersensitivity is the one which is IgE mediated. IgE is a specialized kind of antibody. Now, in that type 1 hypersensitivity reactions, which we generally call allergic reactions, the effect or the symptoms that are produced are immediate in nature. We can have the symptoms within minutes, within hours, within a day. Now, most of these symptoms are, the effect is immediate in nature, and we also discussed how to counteract these type 1 hypersensitivity reactions. We also discussed partly that if it goes out of hand, this hypersensitivity, for example, in case of systemic reaction, we call it as an anaphylactic reaction or an anaphylactic shock, which becomes very dangerous if not treated immediately. So, the person has to be hospitalized immediately, has to be taken to the hospital, wherein some maybe epinephrine or some antihistamine is given injected in that person, and the reverse effect is reversed. Now, coming to the other 3 types of hypersensitivity reactions, the first after that is type 2 antibody dependent hypersensitivity reaction. Now, in the type 1, it was predominantly IgE antibody. In type 2 hypersensitivity reaction, the antibodies produced by the immune response. Generally, when we are talking about the antibodies, in this case it is the IgG or IgM antibody. So, the antibodies produced by the immune response bind to the antigen on the patient's own cell surfaces. Now, here when I say own cell surfaces, maybe the cell may be your own body cell, or the cell is being imported from outside. For example, it has been coming from inside due to some transfusion reaction, blood cell is coming from outside. So, it may be your own body cell, it may not be your own body cell. But what is important is the body is producing an antibody response against that cell. Now, the antigens recognized in this way may be intrinsic antigens or self antigens, which are innately part of the patient cells, or they may be extrinsic, as I just told you. They have been absorbed onto the cells during exposure to some foreign antigen, possibly as part of infection with a pathogen. Now, generally, as I just told you, IgG and IgM antibodies bind to these antigens to form a complex that further activate the classical pathway of the complement activation for eliminating these cells presenting the foreign antigen. Now, generally, what happens whenever this IgG, IgM which is produced against these antigens, they bind to these antigens forming complex, it will cause activation of the complement pathway. Now, with the activation of the complement pathway, if you remember in our last lecture we dealt with the complement pathway, it will eventually cause formation of the membrane attack complex. Once a membrane attack complex is formed, it will lead to the killing of those cells. Now, if it happens to be your own body cell, now technically we are killing our own body cell. So, these are kind of an auto antigens, or maybe the antibodies which we are producing is called an auto antibody, wherein this antibody is acting on our own body cell, on our own proteins present on the cell membrane. So, it is not desirable, but it is happening, and because an immune complex is being formed in the blood, it is activating the complement pathway. Once the complement pathway is activated, it will produce a membrane attack complex, the MAC complex. Once MAC complex is formed on the cell will eventually perish. So, technically it causes the complement activation. Also, most of these times, these immunoglobulins that are produced in the body, they are binding to the Fc receptors present on the NK cells also. If you remember, while dealing with the natural killer cells, we came across a word ADCC, that is antibody dependent cell mediated cytotoxicity. Now, what has happened in this case? The antibody was forming a sandwich between the NK cells and the antigen. Now, let us understand, in this case the antigen may be your regular body cell. The antibody is binding to this antigen and antibody further is binding to the NK cell. The functioning of NK cell is to just produce granzymes and perforins, finally killing this antigenic cell. Now, but remember, this cell was not antigenic, this was your own body cell. Now, when it is affecting or ADCC response is given against your own body cell, it is not desirable, but this type of hypersensitivity is called type 2 hypersensitivity. So, immunoglobulins in this type of hypersensitivity, that is IgG, IgM, is either causing complement system activation or causing ADCC response. Further, the antibody hence formed can also act as an opsonin. Opsonin, as again if you remember, it's a coating rendered onto the pathogen. Now, to make it more palatable or to make it more acceptable to the body. So, if this IgG or produces a coating against a pathogen, now this entire coated pathogen will be easily taken up by the phagocyte will come to that region and will devour this entire antigen. Now, understand, when I say antigen again and again, if it is a self cell, it is generally should not be an antigen, but it is perceived as an antigen in this case of hypersensitivity. So, such type 2 hypersensitivity is generally mediated due to antibodies which are IgG and IgM and not IgE, unlike type 1 hypersensitivity. Generally, the reaction takes few hours to a day also. Now, some of the very important examples of type 2 hypersensitivity reaction is the transfusion reactions, the hemolytic disease of the newborn, which we also call it as erythroblastosis fetalis, the drug induced hemolytic anemia, nephrotoxic or the Meissonier type nephritis, then autoimmune hemolytic anemias, the anti-receptor hormone autoimmune diseases like Hashimoto thyroiditis, Myasthenia gravis, Graves disease, etc. They are all examples of type 2 hypersensitivity reactions. Now, let us come one by one to them. In the transfusion reaction, what happens generally, if you can see in the lower part of the slide, if the donor is O, that is blood group O, it can give blood to any of the people like blood group O, blood group A, blood group B, blood group AB. So, any of these people recipient can take blood from the donor O. However, a person having a blood group A can give it to only A and AB. Similarly, B can give it to B and AB, while AB can give it to only AB. But AB can receive it from anybody. As you can see, that is why he is called a universal recipient. Now, what happens if this is not followed? For example, if the donor is blood group A, but the recipient is blood group B, so we are not doing the right thing, but if such certain thing happens. Now, the A antigen present on the blood group, on the red blood cells of these donor, this will act as an antigen, the A protein will act as an antigen in the recipient who is blood group B. Now, because it is an antigen, the recipient, that is a person with the blood group B, will produce an anti-A antibody against it. So, such transfusion reactions because of blood group incompatibility will lead to type 2 hypersensitivity. Recipient will have antibody to the donor RBC. This will be followed by chills, fever, pain, shock. Most of the time hemolysis takes place, large amount of hemoglobin is released, blood pressure drops, renal failure takes place, blood coagulation takes place. All these manifestations occur in the recipient because of incompatible blood group being given transfused in this particular individuals. Now, you must have realized that these days such things happen rarely because blood group typing is done before a person is given any blood. So, before blood transfusion we always go for blood group typing. So, such hypersensitivity reactions are rare to find these days. Another type which is called the hemolytic disease of the newborn. Now, what happens? It develops in a fetus when the IgG molecules which is one of the most important antibody, which is produced by the mother, passes through the placenta. Now, if you remember when we were dealing with the antibodies, IgG is a particular type of antibody which can easily cross the placenta. Now, once IgG crosses the placenta, it attacks the RBCs in the fetal circulation, which gets broken down and hence destroyed. So, such phenomena is called rhesus incompatibility or erythroblastosis fetalis. Now, generally, if you see this particular slide, this shows what actually happens. The mother is Rh negative. What is Rh? Rh is a kind of a protein present on the RBCs, which we call it as a factor D also. Now, mother is Rh negative, that means the mother's RBC do not have this D factor. Now, the fetus is Rh positive. Now, this is the first pregnancy. He is Rh positive, maybe taking from the father is Rh positive. Now, what happens? The fetus is his first pregnancy. During the first pregnancy, the Rh antigen is present. Now, during parturition is childbirth. As such, you must have known that this must be known to you that during gestation, the maternal circulation and the fetal circulation are mutually exclusive. They do not come in contact with each other. However, during parturition, there is a time that there is some mixing up of blood. Now, during this time, what happens? The fetus RBC is already having the factor D. Now, because of the presence of this factor D in the RBC of the fetus, the RBC that enter the mother circulation, now they initiate an immune response in the Rh negative mother. Now, as you can see, the Rh, these blood cells causes production of anti-Rh antibodies. Now, first pregnancy will not have any problem. The child will be born, child would be normal. But subsequent pregnancy with another second Rh positive fetus, what will happen? There is already an Rh positive and anti-Rh antibody which is produced in the mother. This antibody will cross the placenta, will come into the fetal circulation and will start killing the RBC of the fetus, and eventually leading to killing of, or the child is finally it may lead to abortion. So, a mother who is Rh negative has to be advised to go in for certain anti-Rhd antibodies. These are called ROGAM antibodies. Now, what are these actually? Rhesus negative mothers who have had a pregnancy or who are pregnant with a rhesus positive infant are offered Rh immune globulin, Rhig, or it is also called ROGAM or Rho, that is factor D, immune globulin. Its short form is ROGAM at 28 weeks during pregnancy or at 34 weeks, and definitely within 48 hours after delivery to prevent sensitization to the D antigen. What does these do? These are anti-Rhd antibodies. So, what do? Once this immunoglobulins goes into the mother circulation, they will pick up all the blood cells which are Rh positive, the fetal Rh positive blood cells, and will kill them. So, once these Rh positive or Rh factor is neutralized, the mother can have next pregnancy and is safe, because she does not have any anti-Rh antibody in the blood. So, another type of type 2 hypersensitivity wherein we see autoantigens occurring, it is the nephrotoxic nephritis. Now, here what happens, the antibodies are produced against the glomerular basement membrane. Now, we all know that these are your own body cells, whether it is the kidney cells or the lung cells, they are your own body cells. Now, if you start producing antibodies or autoantibodies against these antigens and will start killing these cells, so it is a very dangerous situation. The syndrome that takes place is called Goodpasture syndrome. So, you can see in the slide below, in this slide, that this is an X-ray film of the lung, wherein part of the lung has been destroyed because of the autoantibodies which are produced against the basement membrane of the lung. Another is thyroiditis, the Graves' disease, where antibodies to the receptor of TSH, that is TSH receptor is produced. It leads to hyperthyroidism, or Hashimoto thyroiditis, which is a very famous thyroid disease, almost 70 to 80% females in today's world are affected with Hashimoto thyroiditis, wherein autoantibodies are produced to the thyroid proteins. Generally, it is because of the TDTH cells which cause lymphocyte infiltration and causes hypothyroidism or goiter, which is an inflammation of the thyroid gland which is trying to cope up with the requirement for the thyroxine hormone by the body. Now, if we come to the type 3 or the immune complex mediated hypersensitivity reaction. Now, as we saw in the type 1 which was IgE mediated, in type 2 which it was antibody mediated, in type 3 it is the immune complex mediated hypersensitivity. Now, what happens? It is caused because of the presence of certain soluble immune complexes. What is an immune complex? An antigen binding to an antibody forms an immune complex. Now, certain immune complexes, when they are formed and they get deposited in certain tissues, like for example in skin, kidney or joints, it can have dangerous effects. Now, why do they have dangerous effects? Whenever these complexes are present or are deposited into certain tissues, they will trigger an immune response, which may be the immune response could be the classical pathway of the complement system. Now, if you remember, during the complement system, we had certain small components called C3a, C4a, C5a, which was produced in the classical pathway, and we said they are anaphylatoxins. Now, since they are anaphylatoxins, they will have an effect on the mast cells and basophils and will trigger histamine release, causing increased vascular permeability and smooth muscle contraction there. Now, because of that, if it is a localized, it will lead to inflammation. If it is a systemic, it may cause an anaphylactic shock again. Now, so this C3a, C5a and C5b67 are also chemotactic in nature. Now, for example, if they get deposited in the vascular tissue or in the blood vessels, it will cause vasculitis. Now, what happens? They are chemotactic. They will, this immune complexes is actually triggering C3a, C5a, C5b67. As they are chemotactic, they will cause the coming up of neutrophils. They will attract neutrophils to that region. Now, once neutrophils are attracted to that region, it will release lytic enzymes, and lytic enzymes will cause the death of the normal tissue also in that region. So, if these immune complexes get deposited in the vascular system, we call it as vasculitis. If it gets deposited in the renal vessels, blood vessels, we call it as glomerulonephritis. So, wherever they get deposited, they will cause triggering of the complement system. The complement components will have a chemotactic effect. The chemotactic effect will cause infiltration of that region by the neutrophils. Neutrophils will release certain enzyme, lytic enzyme, and will cause the destruction of the normal body cells, will lead to inflammation. The reaction may take certain hours to days to develop. Now, the examples of type 3 immune system or hypersensitivity reactions are immune complex glomerulonephritis, rheumatoid arthritis, serum sickness, subacute bacterial endocarditis, symptoms of malaria, systemic lupus erythematosus, as the name suggests, it is systemic in nature, and finally Arthus reaction. Now, coming to what exactly is an Arthus reaction, we will see. Arthus reaction is a type of local type 3 hypersensitivity reaction which involves deposition of antigen antibody complex mainly in the vascular walls. As I said, it is vasculitis, or serosa like pleura, pericardium, synovium and glomeruli. If it is in glomeruli, I just told you it is called glomerulonephritis. Now, the lytic enzymes are released by the accumulated neutrophils, and the complement membrane attack complex will cause localized tissue damage. As you can see, if it is a localized damage, it will lead to inflammation at that region where the antigen has entered. This is called Arthus reaction. It generally takes place within 4 to 10 hours after the injection of the antigen. Here you can see it is an extrinsic allergic alveolitis, also called pigeons or bird fancier's disease. Here what is happening, there is a destruction of the alveoli. Now the pathogen is taken up by inhalation. Now it leads to destruction of the alveoli, and there are consolidated areas of inflammation and fibrosis. This is the lung tissue which has been shown, which is having a there is a destruction of alveoli in the lungs of this person because of the inhalation of the antigen. Coming to the type 4 or the cell mediated delayed type hypersensitivity. Now as the name suggests, it belongs to the cell mediated branch of the immune response, immune system. Most of the time small molecules complexes with the skin proteins, for example complex pentadecacatechol poison ivy or poison oak, cosmetics, hair dyes, solvents like formaldehyde, turpentine, nickel, rubber, all these things can have a reaction with your skin. Now manifestation or the symptom production does not take place immediately. It takes place within 48 to 72 hours. That is why it is called a delayed type. The symptoms are not immediately visible. The complex is internalized by antigen presenting cells, and along with MHC2 it is given to T cells. Now this is a particular type of cell which is called a TDTH cells or delayed type hypersensitivity cell. Unlike the other types, it is not antibody mediated, but rather is a type of a cell mediated response where TDTH cells release cytokines. Now once these TDTH cells release cytokines, it will stimulate macrophages, and macrophages will come and react at that place, and it will lead to localized tissue damage. Now the response is within 48 to 72 hours, that is within 2 to 3 days. Now it was first associated with T cell mediated immune response to Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So initially it was called bacterial hypersensitivity. Now as you can see, the reaction is totally independent of antibody and the complement system. It is purely by TDTH cells which produces certain cytokine, and this cytokine is causing the attraction of macrophages to that region where the antigen has come inside. Now as you can see, this is a typical example of contact hypersensitivity where the skin is getting affected. As you can see, most of the times when you are wearing a watch, the nickel in the watch strap, what it causes, it acts as an antigen in this case and causes the activation of type 4 hypersensitivity reaction, which is the delayed type. Most of the time such inflammation on your wrist takes place within 2 to 3 days. The symptoms are not visible immediately. You wear the watch, you will not find those symptoms immediately. It may take 2 days, it may take 3 days for that area to get certain redness. Now rejection of the human skin grafts is also coming under the type 4 types of hypersensitivity. As you can see, on day 5 it is a vascularized healthy graft, day 12 it's been the rejection has started, day 7 it is unvascularized, that means from day 5 to day 7 it is the vascularized tissue is not showing any pink nature, it is unvascularized. Rapid rejection is taking place, and by day 12 it is totally rejected. Now some of the intracellular pathogens and contact antigens which cause delayed type hypersensitivity reactions are, in case of bacteria, they are Mycobacterium tuberculosis, Mycobacterium leprae, Brucella, Listeria. Intracellular fungi include Pneumocystis, Candida, Histoplasma, Cryptococcus. Certain parasites like Leishmania, viruses like herpes virus, variola, measles, and contact antigens like picryl chloride, hair dyes, and you must have heard many people saying, I have got allergy reaction to this particular dye. So hair dyes, nickel salts, poison ivy if you touch certain plants, poison oaks, all these causes delayed type of hypersensitivity reaction. Now a particular type of delayed type of hypersensitivity reaction is granulomas. What is a granuloma? Granulomas are formed when the immune system attempts to wall off substances it perceives as foreign but is unable to eliminate it. For example, now a let's say a Mycobacterium tuberculosis has come inside an individual. It has been taken up by an APC, shown to TDTH cell. The TDTH cell has produced a cytokine. The cytokine is attracting macrophages to that area. Macrophages is trying to kill this cell. Now, what if this APC, it is not successful in completely eliminating this pathogen? This pathogen keeps on staying in the APC and continuously trigger the type 4 hypersensitivity reaction in that individual. This continuous triggering will become a chronic inflammation or chronic infection in that individual. Such chronic infections are called granulomas. Continuous activation of macrophages induces the macrophages to adhere closely to one another in these cases. It now assume an epithelioid shape, and sometimes they fuse to each other to form multinucleoid giant cells. Now, because of coming together of macrophages, this structure becomes very prominent, which is now called granuloma. These giant cells displace the normal tissue cells, forming palpable nodules, and they will release high concentration of the lytic enzymes in those regions, which will destroy the surrounding tissue. Now, here you can see this individual is having a granuloma on the face. This granulomas leads to chronic stimulation by the pathogen. Such substances include infectious organisms like bacteria and fungi, as well as certain other materials such as keratin. Skin lesions with Mycobacterium leprae and lung cavitation with Mycobacterium tuberculosis belongs to this category. You can see there is a distinct granuloma. It is the site where the pathogen is almost always active. It's a chronic infection. Now, with this we come to the summary, wherein we can summarize all the 4 types of hypersensitivity reaction. In the first type, you can see it is the role played by IgE. It is IgE mediated hypersensitivity reaction. The antigen induces cross linking of IgE, which is bound to mast cell and basophils, which release the vasoactive mediator. The typical manifestation includes systemic anaphylaxis or localized anaphylaxis like hay fever, asthma, hives. Now, asthma is a localized, because here the lower respiratory system is actually affected. Hives, food allergies, eczema. Eczema also can become a localized, wherein certain regions of the organs are of your body is getting affected. In the type 2 system, as it is, you can see it is IgG mediated cytotoxic hypersensitivity, where antibody is directed against the cell surface antigen and it causes cell destruction via complement activation or ADCC. Typical manifestation is blood transfusion reaction, erythroblastosis fetalis or autoimmune hemolytic anemia. In the type 3 system, it is the immune complex mediated hypersensitivity reaction. The immune complexes get deposited in various tissues, which induces complement activation and causes inflammatory response, which is also because of infiltration of neutrophils, also leads to infiltration of neutrophils. Typical manifestation will have Arthur's reaction at the region where the antigen has entered, can cause serum sickness, necrotizing vasculitis, glomerulonephritis, rheumatoid arthritis or lupus. In the type 4, it's a typical cell mediated hypersensitivity reaction where the sensitized Th1 or TDTH cells release cytokines which activate macrophages and will lead to it can cause macrophages activation or T cytotoxic cell activation, which will mediate the cellular damage. Again, typical manifestation includes contact dermatitis, tubercular lesions or graft rejection. So, with this summary, I come to the end of my lecture. Thank you very much. Hope you have understood the hypersensitivity reactions very well. Thank you very much.
On that note, I would like to thank ma'am for this very interesting discussion, and thank you dear friends for watching our show. Stay tuned and keep watching. Thank you.